En sus inicios, pensábamos que Internet era otro medio de comunicación más. Con el tiempo, hemos comprendido que Internet es la plataforma en la que todos los medios y contenidos evolucionan y convergen. Por primera vez, Internet ofrece la posibilidad de interactuar en tiempo real con el consumidor. ¿Hemos aprovechado esta oportunidad para construir un diálogo o seguimos proponiendo un monólogo? ¿Generamos experiencias o invadimos su vida? Muchas marcas utilizan viejas técnicas de marketing en medios digitales, con mensajes invasivos mezclados de emoción que en vano intentan participar en forma positiva. Tenemos que evolucionar la forma en que hemos aprovechado Internet, asumiendo el liderazgo para enfrentar los retos que todo proceso de cambio implica. Sin el cambio, no hay espacio para la innovación, la creatividad o incentivo alguno para mejorar. ¡Vivamos la evolución! Esto es IAB Conecta 2014. Bienvenidos. Agradecemos a nuestros patrocinadores.
Gracias, muy buenos días. Gracias por acompañarnos en este nuestro segundo día de IAB Conecta 2014, Evolución y Convergencia. El día de ayer tuvimos la oportunidad de compartir muchos momentos de aprendizaje y reflexión que sin duda vale la pena dedicarnos unos minutos a reflexionar sobre ellos. Tuvimos un panorama más claro del futuro y crecimiento de la industria de la publicidad digital. Solo recordemos algunos comentarios. Por ejemplo, Mark Applebaum nos llevó por, aparte del performance que hizo musicalmente en el piano, a una frase que tiene que ver con el aburrimiento como un factor clave, un ingrediente clave en el secreto detrás de la innovación. Pero no solamente es el hecho de estar aburrido, sino también la enorme disciplina y compromiso que significa poder estar en este proceso de innovación. Fue sin duda un momento interesante para abrir el evento de por qué un músico tendría que estar en un evento de publicidad digital, y de las experiencias o el mensaje que queríamos compartir con ustedes es ese. Al final la publicidad digital es la creación de un mensaje y una experiencia que es el deseo de una marca a partir de una gran idea. Esa idea puede ser también plasmada a través de la música, y eso tienen en común, y es un proceso creativo, es un proceso de innovación, involucra todo lo que nos hizo reflexionar también Mark. Pedro Moneo también nos llevó por la mano de la innovación a partir de reconocer esa gran oportunidad que hay en el mercado latinoamericano y qué se necesita en cuanto al pensamiento estratégico y de mayor largo plazo para reconocer esa oportunidad de innovación y de espíritu emprendedor como un ingrediente fundamental para detonar ese potencial que hay en América Latina. Raj Rao nos llevó también por el mensaje de la importancia que tiene darle voz al consumidor en sentido de pertenencia de un producto o de un servicio y estar preparado para atender esas necesidades. Beverly Harrison, cómo la tecnología de la mano con los dispositivos móviles está cambiando los hábitos de consumo de los usuarios y aumentando el valor que tiene para ellos a través de la personalización de aplicaciones y de la información que el usuario pone en esas aplicaciones para generar experiencias como la que ella misma representó en esos videos, y que ya no es ciencia ficción, es una realidad, tecnologías que se están probando en laboratorio, pero que están por salir en nada y serán parte de nuestra vida cotidiana y el impacto que tendrán. Cayal también nos llevó por el mensaje de la información como una parte fundamental para construir en términos de innovación y relevancia, por lo que se espera que el desarrollo de nuevas habilidades analíticas por parte del área de mercadotecnia sea un skill que tenemos que ir preparando, entendiendo que es más la comprensión de cómo estos nuevos recursos tecnológicos construyen valor y relevancia para el consumidor y no solamente el uso específico de la herramienta. Jim Lesinski, hablando ya del tema del liderazgo, hablaba que los líderes digitales deben pensar más allá de campañas publicitarias, empezando por digitalizar sus productos y derribar barreras dentro de las mismas organizaciones que impidan construir valor para el consumidor. Y eso significa también, obviamente, un enorme reto, valentía a la hora de enfrentar esto y ser relevante para el consumidor bajo esa visión que me hablaba del Zero Moment of Truth. Neil Bedwell hablaba del storytelling, que debe tener toda campaña para hacer una conexión emocional como los consumidores y que esa expresión de felicidad o traer felicidad tiene que tener esa pasión detrás de la marca y contagiarse hacia toda la organización y darle ese sentido, ese meaning a lo que es el valor de la marca. Melissa Barnes, la importancia de la interpretación y de la habilidad de establecer conexiones entre la información para construir momentos relevantes en tiempos de la inmediatez y de esa oportunidad también de escuchar al consumidor y hacerlo parte de este ciclo de marketing, pero con un aspecto de relevancia y de involucramiento del consumidor en ese sentido. Y la oportunidad que hay en áreas como el servicio al cliente también en el uso de plataformas sociales. José Bastón habló de la importancia del contenido exclusivo y como un diferenciador en un mundo que hoy es multipantalla, donde tenemos enormes audiencias fragmentadas, pero estas experiencias se pueden complementar, pueden interactuar, y esto también es un reto en términos de la visión de una empresa que se está reinventando también y en términos de las plataformas digitales y cómo construir su futuro también a partir de este reconocimiento de evolucionar. Como podrán ver, la experiencia y aprendizaje que hemos tenido ha sido muy rico y valioso. Sin embargo, este viaje de evolución y convergencia no ha terminado. El día de hoy tendremos los otros dos temas, grandes temas que abordaremos en la estrategia y creatividad, donde participarán figuras que nos mostrarán, además de estos grandes temas, sus propias perspectivas en términos de la parte de creatividad y estrategia en la visión del uso de las herramientas digitales. Tendremos también el showcase de casos de éxito de los ganadores de los premios IAB Conecta 2014, los ganadores oro, como un tema que también es importante. Siempre nos han solicitado, oye, queremos saber qué está pasando en casos de éxito, queremos tener mayor información de ellos y que nos los compartan. Y si bien tenemos la oportunidad de ver casos a nivel internacional, la oportunidad de tener aquí a los protagonistas de estos casos que fueron reconocidos por la industria es fundamental para convertirlos en una experiencia de discusión y aprendizaje. Los invitamos también a que se conecten a la red del evento IAB Conecta, agradeciendo el patrocinio que Telefónica amablemente nos ha brindado para el patrocinio del acceso a Internet del evento. Recuerden, la contraseña del acceso a Internet es Telefónica. Y les invitamos también a seguir la conversación en plataformas sociales, aprovechando el hashtag IAB Conecta. Les pedimos también, por favor, todos ustedes cuentan en sus gafetes con un código QR, donde viene una liga a la encuesta de satisfacción. Esta encuesta es muy importante, que nos retroalimenten con ella, es lo que ha hecho año con año este proceso de aprendizaje de IAB Conecta para poder construir una experiencia de valor para todos los asistentes. Esta información viene detrás de sus gafetes. Otro mensaje también importante para iniciar el día es el tema del talento. Ayer hablamos mucho del capital humano, de las personas, y este es un tema que nos preocupa también en IAB. Para nuestros socios y participantes en el Affiliate Program, un beneficio de su participación, recuerden, es la bolsa de trabajo que tenemos en IAB México. Para esto es importante que recuerden que el punto de contacto es el área de relación con socios, con el propósito precisamente de poder contactar a ese capital humano que buscamos en nuestras organizaciones, y es un beneficio de la vinculación con IAB México. Bien, pues para dar inicio a nuestro track dedicado a estrategia, quiero presentarles al fundador y CEO de Social Bakers. Su rol principal ha sido el de impulsar activamente la estrategia global de Social Bakers. Antes de integrarse al mundo de social media, Rezab fue fundador y CEO durante 8 años de una empresa de mobile llamada Redboss, enfocada a contenidos mobile, juegos, servicios y servicios para negocios. Déjame decirles también que hemos tenido la oportunidad de convivir con él y quienes, algunos de ustedes lo han visto seguramente recorriendo el evento. Es una experiencia extraordinaria platicar con él. Él es totalmente un millennial, esta nueva generación de emprendedores que vemos que han tomado el proceso de autoaprendizaje, de ser autodidactas, pero no solamente para desarrollar nuevas habilidades, sino también para crear propuestas de valor y de reinventar la forma en que hemos visto algunas plataformas tecnológicas con estos nuevos medios, esta nueva forma de ver las plataformas digitales. Así que con el título de su conferencia, How Social Media Should Be Integrated in Brands Strategy and Not as an Isolated Initiative, les pido un fuerte aplauso para nuestro siguiente conferencista, Rezab.
Good morning, Mexico. It's great being here. So, it's a pleasurable month for me, and particularly week for me, at Social Bakers, because this month marks our 6th year as a company. And you're thinking, I founded the company, I'm the CEO and founder of Social Bakers, and before, this is my 2nd company. Before this, I had a mobile games company. I ran that for 7 years. Now you're probably thinking, did he start his business at 5? No, 14. But it's great to be here. I promise that you'll learn a lot today, and if you give your attention in the next 40 minutes of the presentation, I promise you will learn a lot. I encourage you to take out some notepads and take some notes. It'll be a data-heavy presentation. So I recommend that, we'll go through it. We also have a few completely exclusive insights that we've never shared before yet. So we've also invited some global people to watch online and share. So keep tweeting. For me, I'm really excited about social media, if it's not kind of obvious. I mean, I'm the first person that goes to a brand and smothers them on Twitter. I'm like, what did you do to me? Come on, guys. I'm the first one that'll come to, if something happens somewhere, I'll comment, I'll react, I'll be the one to share it with everybody. So it's, of course, there are a lot of social media today, and there's a ton of social networks. When we look at in some cases, when we look at only Facebook, there's a lot more. And we're kind of putting those in 2 categories, in discovery networks and in delivery networks. So think of delivery as the content. So in delivery networks like YouTube, like Tumblr, and things like Instagram, who are closer to some discovery networks as well, it's important to build strategies for all these networks. To build for discovery and delivery, combine that together. What also really excites me about social media is social advertising. Social advertising is growing extremely in the last few months and in the last few years. So if we look at the market kind of last year or today, we were looking at a market where a majority of the ads are kind of starting to be in. If you look at people like countries like UK, we look at a lot of spend on YouTube, more and more spend on Facebook, like 20% of digital spend, of online ad spend, is on Facebook already in the UK. That's a lot. But we believe, we've made the prediction last year that actually most digital ads will be social. And I'd be bold to say that actually all digital ads will be social one day. Because social make things better. Even if you discount everything about social, the fact that you can share, you can interact, you can comment, you can +1, you can retweet, tweet, all these things, it just makes these ads so much more powerful. And we look at events like the Super Bowl that is a starting hub for a lot of top videos in the market, and that shows us it starts at the Super Bowl, starts at the other media, but continues on social media. If we look at mobile time spent, for example, it's another great indicator. I mean, social media is grossly mobile now. More of Facebook's revenue is now from mobile than it is from computers, which is amazing. And 80% of mobile traffic and time spent on phones is social already. That's amazing. That's a whole new thing. So we basically define social media and the evolution of companies ramping in it in 3 categories. One is kind of like an early stage. You're starting up with social media, you're setting up your profiles, you're already posting some content to these pages, and you're really starting to understand some basic things and some basics in and outs of social media. Then the second category, we call that socially devoted. You start understanding, you start caring for your users, you start responding to your users, you start sharing good content, and really start properly engaging with your fans. And the third stage is what we would call socially native. Socially native is when you truly take advantage of social media as an entire business, where it doesn't only involve marketing or communication, it involves every single department. And I'll make examples of those three and show you how you can make and go down that path to become what we call socially native. So, what is the goal of social media? Now, a lot of people were like, well, I gotta acquire a lot of fans. I have this much fans, my competitor have this much fans, I gotta go there, I gotta pay for some fans, I gotta get some fake fans, cheap fans. Not anymore, guys. I mean, you have to attract some sort of critical mass of people to your communities. But you really have to be very careful about how you do that. You only need a certain amount of that. So what is the actual goal of marketers in social media? Is getting into the newsfeed. Is be visible. That newsfeed is where people go. That's the goal of marketers in social media. That's the only goal of marketers in social media. So it's reaching people at scale. And of course, it's not only people. That's TV reaches people at scale. Radio reaches people at scale, especially if they're stuck in Mexico City traffic in the morning. But social media reaches people at a personalized scale. You can reach anybody, people that love cars, really love Justin Bieber, whoever that is. But hope nobody got offended. Not in here, I think. So, social media is about reaching more people. And the problem of social media and of social marketing, which you're going to start noticing in the coming year and a half in Mexico as well, is that social media is becoming extremely competitive. It's becoming competitive for brands because they're fighting for the same amount of space for the newsfeed. That space is not increasing, it's increasing by user growth, but you're fighting for the same amount of users. And those users, they follow more and more pages, and these pages send more and more content. Where a person back in 2009 would be exposed to 20, 30 page posts in a month. 30 page posts in a month. Today, it's in the thousands. So we can all go to Facebook and say, well, organic reach is down on Facebook. My updates are not reaching as many people. You got to do something about it. It's a Facebook mistake. No, it's not. It's what happened on the market. It's natural evolution. And there are many ways to kind of go around that. So second stage is socially devoted, when you truly start understanding social media. And there are a number of aspects to that. You can start kind of looking at social media as a funnel. You understand that you have some reach, and reach really correlates with engagement. So regardless of which metric you use, engagement is at least publicly comparable. Reach is private to your own page. You really have to understand and work with that. And you have to start with that engagement, grow that engagement, and it'll give you more and more. And of course, after that engagement, which we call kind of a return on engagement, there's the funnel of return on investment. But you cannot skip that in social media. You can't really do anything without engagement. And that engagement drives your ROI up. The more you have, the better the ROI. So then you have click rates, conversion rates, visits to your website, whatever your goal is, specific typically to an industry. And what we found is social goals don't really change all that much by industry. So when we can set a measurement framework, and the companies really use that in telecom, in media. Another thing is the importance of content. Content is king, that was mentioned million times. But it's not about sending cats and dogs to social media. Yes, it's a cute puppy. That doesn't mean you have to share it. You're a bank. Why would you? So always, every piece of content has to have a number of aspects. It has to be engaging, and by that we mean likable and shareable. And the second aspect is converting, meaning having to do something with that brand as well. Has to have a brand connection and convert ideally. And you can do social media for two things, which is increase reach and awareness, or number two, direct response, which means you're leading people somewhere in a funnel. It's very simple. People sometimes overcomplicate that aspect. But every single piece of content has to have at least 2 of those 3 components. It's not enough that it's converting because it's not engaging. You will not get any visits. If it's shareable, good enough. Well, you got a lot of shares, unless it's something negative. We'll get to those. So, and another thing is social customer care. Social customer care is a thing that's very, very deep to my heart. People like KLM do it amazingly well. I mean, they have over 200 employees doing it in over 10 languages with a 1-hour guaranteed response time. If you actually go on the plane, they'll now share you, like, we guarantee that we're going to respond to you in 1 hour. That's amazing. That's social media really connected into the business. Now, of course, sometimes that, brands have to experiment all the time. KLM experiments as well, even with its posting strategy. You might have seen this. Especially that tweet, really, the Gael Garcia, that was really interesting. I think it was trending topic for a while. But brands have to experiment and can't be afraid of experimenting. So you have to do everything. Now, that might be a little off. You might have anticipated if you have a third of your follower base in Mexico, maybe they should have thought of that twice and used analytics to do that, but that happens as well. But you look at companies like British Airways. British Airways is a really amazing company. They fly good airplanes, okay, they're not Emirates, but they're all right. But one thing is their social customer care, or let me rephrase, their non-existence of their social customer care. They respond to between 30 and 60%, depends, on average in 1 or 2 days response time. So it gets to the extreme that somebody wrote them, guys, I have a very big problem. I just arrived in Portugal from London. I am here, I have lost my luggage. I'll be here for 2 days. Could you please help me? I'll be here for 2 days. They responded 3 days later, how can I help you? The guy was back in London. So you have to really care of your customers, of your clients in social media. And customer care is really growing. There were 9+ million questions posted so far in 2014, thousands and thousands of employees of different companies responding. But only 5% of brands in social media are socially devoted. But these brands, of course, receive a ton of more customer care demand. If we look at the top industries, it's almost consistently airlines, telcos, services companies. It's quite consistent. And finance coming next. But one thing is, it's not only about having social customer care is like a great thing to respond one-on-one. It actually helps your page itself as well. By being socially devoted, by responding to your fans, by responding and communicating with your customers, you actually have on average 2.5 times more interactions on your page. And in Latin America, that's 3 times more. So we release these socially devoted studies every quarter. You can find this in our local reports. If you go to that URL, you'll find out. You can even have a check if you're socially devoted. Now again, a majority of the companies are not. And we got to do something about that naturally. So that gets me to stage number 3, which is socially native. What do you truly do to become best in class in social media? Now, very few companies actually are. Many would think they are in the socially native stage, but very few actually are. So if you look at that, what that means as part of a process, it means to really iterate. It means to analyze, create content, optimize, publish, promote, do these things all at the same time, and really iterate on these things every day. It means that your social media manager has also an analyst right by his hand. The marketing teams, typically the most successful marketing team, is people like Airbnb. Their marketing team is half analysts now. 1/2 of it, mathematicians, scientists, analysts, people that understand behavior, analytics, they can read data very well, provide insights and take action on it. This is key. And if you don't have a social media analyst in your team, I recommend you get at least one right away. That's definitely something every social marketing team and every marketing team needs. And really, we're talking about social marketing as social marketing, but we really mean just marketing when it comes to that, because social is really evolving in that stage. Now, there's a lot of things you can do in real time. When you're socially native, you typically do things in real time. So when this football player, he likes to bite people a lot, bit another football player, brands started making fun of that. McDonald's Uruguay said, hey, get a Big Mac instead. Well, I bet that's a great idea for a sports person, but anyway. So, but a lot of brands engaged, a lot of brands interacted. Now, some of them reacted in an hour, 2 hours. Some of them reacted all the way 4 or 5 hours, but it still was successful. So it's not necessarily real-time marketing isn't necessarily that you have it in 5 minutes after that. You actually have to think about that, run it through an approval process very efficiently, and have it. Now, of course, there's upsides to having it faster, as you can see, because there's more engagement and more upside if you are the ones to publish it in a timely manner, because the event's still happening. It's still buzzing. Social media is still talking about it a lot. And real-time marketing is important. You have to measure in real time, you have to iterate in real time, and your content comes out in real time. I still don't understand. Social media is amazingly competitive. We talked about that. But many social media managers still ignore the competition element. They don't look at their competition and we're better. But not all of them are. And you really, well, most of them are not. So you have to really look at your competitors, what they're doing. And I see maybe 1 in 50, maybe 1 in 100 social media managers actually look in real time when they're posting right now if it's the right time to post. And I don't mean like on a monthly basis I analyze what are the good times to post. I mean, is it okay to post right this second? Is it going to be more engaging or less engaging based on a prediction and a current market model? And this is important. Now, we're at IAB, of course, and IAB likes working on standards. We like working on standards as well. We like pushing them. We like helping companies. And as a company, we really focus on having all the metrics in social media available. So when we say social is not about one metric, it's about all of them, what we mean by that is you really have to build and understand your social media and how it works from all perspectives. So it's the activity, it's the paid media aspect, the interactions, the engagement, the reach, everything. And this is, the paid media metrics alone. Every Facebook ad for every single Facebook update, where you do 30 a month, has over 100 metrics. Every single one. Now that's more than any other medium on the planet. Social media is the place with the biggest amount of metrics, and to make sense of them is key. Building things like measurement frameworks. Understand, okay, so I am doing buzz monitoring analytics. I am analyzing my page and my competitive set. If nothing else, at least 5-10 pages of your competitors. Now, you don't only analyze, of course, to measure. You analyze to get inspired. So the best companies that we work with today, they don't just measure. They don't create reports, send an Excel over to their colleagues. No, they inspire. Every week, or sometimes every day, they create a report based on the top content of their competitors, and they send it to a wide team in their company. BBC, for example, one of our clients, they do it several times a day. But the fun fact is, the receiver is not only the social media marketing team, it's the editors. So the editors get that feedback. What have our competitive media sites done? Are they trending? Are their contents getting retweeted a lot? Do they have, is this topic interesting? And they can get a better picture and apply that when building their content. So other metrics, customer care metrics, the platform's metrics like YouTube Insights, Facebook Insights, bringing them all together and understanding them. Online metrics, correlating it with Google Analytics, with Adobe Analytics, anything, but putting it all in, looking at the advertising metrics and the conversions. Now again, I already said, if conversions are very different from who you are as a company. So if you're a media company, well, your conversions will probably be visits or some sort of sponsorships or anything, but it'll be a variety of things. Now, social ads are also important in the socially native stage. Now, most companies still really don't get social advertising. Now, in my opinion, if you're not spending 10% of your digital budget, of your marketing budget on social, it's wrong. Not of your digital, which is what most of you do today, maybe even less, but of your total. Now, why is that? It's because of the time spent. People spend an equivalent amount of time in social media and on their phones and social sites as they do in TV. But it's a heavily underinvested area. I recommend all of you, when Facebook rolls out that format with the reach, with the video, with the kind of the really exclusive homepage access, you get that. Because that's going to be amazingly cheap compared to TV. Amazingly cheap and effective and social, shareable again. And that's important. Now, if we look at social ads, today most companies kind of take it, okay, it's social media, so let me send on this page, I'll buy some fans. No. And then I will put out some posts and I'll promote them. And a lot of marketers, a lot of brands, a lot of media use media agencies to do that. Now, there's nothing wrong with that. I think you should have it internally, but there's nothing wrong with that in particular. Hope there are not many media agencies that are going to kill me. I have an evening flight, so I'll hope I'm, But if you look at these posts, so you're now going to promote them. Okay, so most companies, 75% of companies today, they go in and they're like, okay, I have some organic reach, let's promote this, and let's targeting. Targeting, if you do the advanced targeting, there's like 100 fields. I don't want to really fill out 100 fields. I have to do 20 of those in the next few minutes. So what they do is they click the boost button on Facebook, they click friends of fans, and they think that's going to get a relevant audience to them. But that premise is wrong for many reasons. First of all, that means your acquired fans are perfect. That also means those acquired fans, that community, is not bigger than a certain amount. Because let me follow this math with me. If you have 1 million fans in Mexico, and you have, how many friends does an average person have on Facebook? 200. Multiply that. That's all of Mexico. So any page above 250,000 fans, friends of fans targeting is not targeting. Targeting means building your custom audiences. Taking your emails that are opted in, uploading them to Facebook. Taking people, you guys all have apps. Media companies have apps. Brands have apps. You can take the app IDs today and take them and upload them as a custom audience. People that are using my app. My customers with phone numbers. So easy. And you can target to these individual target audiences and analyze and understand what are you doing, okay? So every post, from my perspective, should be targeted to 5 to 10 different custom audiences and target audiences on Facebook. And the same goes for Twitter. The same goes for YouTube. There's great targeting options there. So that's the future of social ads. And the companies that are doing it today, they're really cashing on that opportunity. They're relevant audience. And yes, guys, let's be clear. There's one thing in social media, the whole stupidity of the fact that let's get cheaper and cheaper reach. So the media agencies are often targeted, like even from a bonus perspective, to get a certain reach cheap. Now that is totally stupid. Because what you actually want to do, you actually want this reach to be targeted as best as possible to the right audience. Now, if it's the right audience, naturally, it'll be a lucrative audience. And if it's a lucrative audience, it'll be more expensive. So actually, KPI might be getting in a more relevant audience, and that will bring you more. But it'll be more expensive, but that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And as kind of the conclusion of the socially native part, you are really socially native. Not only if you do social marketing well, but if you really weave social into every part of the business. Customer care, we've talked about that already. That's an easy one. Well, depends. Marketing, PR, communications, most obvious one. But also sales management, things like human resources. We've done a lot of analysis for companies where we help them understand employee engagement in social media. Are my employees engaging? Are they helping me? Are they becoming my own brand ambassadors? Most companies forget this. I know many banks still have less fans than the number of employees. Guys, this is something you have to start somewhere, right? And of course, leadership. Leadership has to be involved in social. Great examples are CEO of AirAsia, for example, Tony Fernandez. He's amazing on Twitter. He even uses it as a media practice to talk to journalists. It's really awesome. So that gets me to a second part, some exclusive insights. They'll be divided into two parts. One is general to social media. One is for Latin America. This is the part you want to write down. And if you want the presentation, we have a stand right over there in that corner. You can go get that presentation if you want, and we'll send it over. So first of all, doing things like the World Cup does make effect, not only on marketing, not only on buzz, on your social media presence. So during the last Olympics, I was fairly skeptical about brands actually making a return on their sponsorships. But after World Cup, I'm a believer. The sponsorships, the results, the millions of views on YouTube, tens of millions, sometimes hundreds of millions, that was an amazing job. And that's something you guys should look into. Going with real-time events. Twitter and Facebook both like to think of coupling with things like TV. But what is TV? That's just content streamed at a certain time. And it depends on the interest of the content. World Cup is exactly that. Content with an amazing spread of interest, of course. Another exclusive stat we have is on mobile. So Twitter publishes a lot of its kind of, how many people are mobile and not. But they really kind of miss out the fact, well, how many brands interact? What's the stats for brands? So when you're doing your Twitter strategy, think about that 60% of people engaging with you are on mobile. This is an exclusive stats. We're going to release it in the next few days. We haven't published this ever. 60% of them are on mobile. Now this is measured by replies, by the feed, by the interactions, by the mentions. Now this is also different by category. So there are categories naturally, airlines, you're on the way, with a higher. And there's categories with a lower engagement. E-commerce is one of them. People still buy online, and then they'll interact online rather than on mobile. But it's an interesting view, and you to think about every industry, the vertical that you're in, to understand, okay, so how should I think of mobile? Many people still don't understand the fact that on mobile, you really, some pictures won't work. The screen's only that big, right? So if you write in little text, it won't be readable. And people won't go in and expand it and zoom it with their fingers. They won't do that. They'll just scroll on if it's not interesting. Now, Facebook, this is measured off of wall posts, not comments, because that's unmeasurable. So on comments, we assume the number to be also 40, 50% or closer to Twitter. But on customer care, on inbound, on posts, on the page, it's 28%. I just like to compare that year on year. It was 3% last year. 3, up to 28. That's amazing. And there are categories, again, that have a lot more. I do not understand why beverages people interact through mobile. I think you just buy a Coca-Cola somewhere and then you interact. I don't really understand that, but, So, but telecoms is obvious. E-commerce is, again, obvious low on that category. So some insights on Latin America. Now, we've always kind of presented these, what we call share of a voice graphs. And those were kind of, okay, on a certain market, on our certain cluster of markets, people really like these things. They're fans of these pages on Facebook. But we've never really, and that's an unfair statement, because when we say fans are not that important, well, then engagement and reach is important. So really we went, and for the first time, we correlated an entire category's followership with an entire category's engagement. This is the first time we've done this study ever in the world, and we're happy to present that. So on the inner circle, there are the fans. So fast-moving consumer goods has 10.9% of share of fans. But I haven't seen that many phones take a picture of something since a long time. But you can come and download that, and we'll tweet it out later. So, and the outer circle, which is the engagement, they have 21.6%. So what are they doing? Well, they're probably paying, they're boosting, they're amplifying their strategy. Fashion's an interesting one. That one's fairly equal. Alcohol's the most interesting one. I don't know for whatever reason, but they acquire a lot of fans, but then they don't get the engagement, which is not very logical if you think about it. Alcohol gets a lot of engagement. Last night was an example of that here on the cocktail party. And afterwards as well, that's why the last rows are empty a lot. Now, specific to Mexico is the next one. So it changed a little bit. So alcohol up as a category in Mexico, definitely. And the engagement is also similarly correlative. FMCG is even greater. It has an 8% of fans. They've probably identified, okay, I'll acquire some core fans. I'll really acquire the core. I won't just buy more fans. It's stupid. But I'll get the reach, the engagement, because that's what matters. That's what's going to get me my brand awareness because, well, let's be honest, if I'm FMCG, I'm probably not sending people to e-commerce shops to buy in bulk yet. But I want reach. I want brand. I want a bigger frequency of my updates to be reached to people at scale. Now, another thing is social customer services metrics. There are, of the brands that we measure in Latin America, there are 331 that we would categorize as socially devoted, doing customer service well. 331. And 6,650 that are not, that are ignoring their customers. They're saying, well, 60,000 questions, forget it. Car companies, hey, I'd like to buy a car in this dealership tomorrow. Could you please help me out? Nothing. And then car companies come to me and say, what is the ROI of social media? Well, it's you damn responding to that post, and the guy's going to buy a car. We work with a ton of hotels worldwide. And many of the hotels, they do B2C communication. It's amazing. They do an amazing job at it. But what about B2B? What about event organizers? Create a group of event organizers in your country or nearby countries that like making events. Count the ROI of that. You get a person, I don't care if it costs $1,000 for click. If that person organizes an event for 100 grand, 200 grand, that's return on investment in social media. Same with Twitter, 126 socially devoted brands, 1,860 non-socially devoted. That ratio is fairly equal, and more unresponded questions than responded. Globally, there are over 20 million unresponded questions in the first 2 quarters of 2014. 20 million, right? Talk about job deficiency. There's your job. The companies make a lot of money. Come on, put the people in social care. They'll be friendly and, WhatsApping, WeChatting, Facebooking, Twittering. These are the top socially devoted companies in Mexico. So Volaris, top, Santander, and others. These are the top socially devoted in Latin America. As you can see, the two in retail and in airlines, they stayed. So the biggest in airlines and in retail still remains a Mexican brand in Latin America. But telecoms is an interesting one. Telecoms didn't really make it in Mexico because they really struggle to be socially devoted on most platforms. But people like Movistar, people like Claro, they do an amazing job. This is per quarter. Now, we've seen the extreme in Asia. There are brands in Asia that get 250,000 posts and questions by their users every quarter. That's 100,000 a month. That's 3,500 roughly per day. That's a lot per hour. If one complaint takes 10 minutes to solve, 5 minutes to solve, that's a lot of work to do. Now, when we come to the measurement part, now, many companies measure social in a very intelligent way, and many don't. So let me show you the second part. So as a brand manager, sometimes, we see agencies all around the world measuring social in many different ways, some through ways that are not even possible or not even plausible. But one that we see quite commonly is this one. You go to a page, you go to Facebook, you go to a page, you go there, go to the insights section, export the data, go to Twitter, export the data, copy-paste the data, put it in an Excel, and start over again. Next page. You go in, you go to the page, you copy the data, you get my point? You know, and now you'd think this is absolutely insane, where there's a media agency in New York City with 25 people doing that. 25 poor interns are sitting there, copy-pasting. They have to have, like, you know, on their fingers, they have to be like, you know, all right. That's not the right way to do it, okay? So our mission here as a company, as Social Bakers, is to help you do that. Is to help measure social, help understand the standards, and we've also created a hugely free site called socialbakers.com, which I'm sure a lot of you use, and there's way too much free stats on that site. You don't even want to like go deeper on that site. So much good intelligence. Don't go to the blog, and definitely don't go in the individual categories. It's just too much information. And then we help companies, we help them put it in a dashboard, understand all the measures, put in the metrics, understand, okay, what are my recommendations for my posting? What am I doing right now? Can I post right now? Right this second or not? And we say there's a way to post or you are free to post. Very simple two things. And we tell you why. Look, because these competitors that you set up, they're just very active. They're now promoting, boosting, doing everything. So you'd have to spend more money probably to do that. A lot of companies still, it surprises me that we've noticed this with some media agencies in Germany, and this was amazing. So the people that do social advertising in those media agencies, you know, they didn't have the headcount, so they were the same people that do search engine marketing. So people that know search engine marketing and the huge forms that the Google ads have know that that's a hard job. That's harder than social marketing in many ways. So they spend all their day running their Google ads, but then at 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock, it's time to promote Facebook. So let's look at my clients' requests for promotion. All right, 10 of my clients are requesting me to promote now. All right, let's do it. So they go to every page and boost, ideally friends of fans, bam, bang, 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 bang. 10 posts promoted to the same market, Germany. Suddenly what happens? Facebook's not a bidding system. It's a bidding to efficiency system. Remember that. Don't think you're going to put a bid up, it's going to do what you want. No, it's an efficiency. You can even get it cheaper than you set it up for, if you have it effective. Now, launching 10 competing ads against each other into the people's feed is not smart. Because the hours before that, there was no competition. Suddenly, there's virtual competition. That puts the price up, that drives the efficiency down. Now, one of the most underestimated things of social media, and this is particularly specific to Facebook, is the negative feedback aspect. Now, on Facebook, you get reached or you don't get organic reached, and you do get a good paid efficiency if you are doing good stuff, if you don't have negative feedback. Now, if your negative feedback starts growing a lot for your posts, you will get lower and lower and lower reach. You will get a lower efficiency, a lower reach, and it'll cost more to buy ads. Now, again, very few marketers, I'm talking single-digit percentages, actually monitor their negative reach in an aggregated way, understanding way. Well, how do I get out of that? How do I really publish good content? Not puppies, not cats. Things that are relevant to my brand. And this is where it will show. And this is, by the way, this is the Social Bakers page. This is a reflection on us. We've over-promoted, we've over-advertised some updates that had a multiple frequency, and it didn't really work well. So we really started kind of optimizing that, and we took it down. So good. That's exactly how to do this. Putting up weekly reports, putting up social command centers, putting up reports so you distribute it to the entire team. That's the key thing of social media, understanding the intelligence, applying the intelligence. And through weekly reports, or through things like social command centers, you aggregate data from social, from listening, from advertising, from web analytics, from email marketing, from everything. You put it all in one place, and you watch it real time. Now, 1 year ago, I didn't even dream of the fact that many of our top clients would be doing this. But they set up beautiful command centers. I mean, we've done work for NHL, for their Sky Lounge, for their offices, for the teams of NHL. We've done work with Nestle where we put up their command centers in countless countries. We've helped provide the analytics, of course, for that. Now, this is great. You really understand what you're doing. And these command centers, you forget who you buy them from or how you get them operational. They're very valuable for the business. Now, some people think they're just for show. That's one way. If you have a good ego as a marketer, use it. It's okay. But focus on the practical aspect. What does every screen bring intelligence to the team that hour, that day, that minute that helps them do their job more effectively? So bring up these visualizations, bring up things that you do, and of course, work on that kind of circular flow. Iterate, learn from your mistakes, and apply it, because social media can really be huge. It's an opportunity where I believe social media will kind of go over digital. It already has a higher time span. Everything digital will essentially be social. All ads will be social, but all content will be social as well. Or if not that, it'll have a layer of shared content in those discovery networks. And already, by that definition, it has become social. So embrace that, because without that, it's not going to work out for you. So 2 ways to engage with us. I think the best way is coming down to our stand and asking us. So key takeaways is try and get your company to really be into that socially native stage. And if not, socially devoted. By the way, those stages that I showed, the startup, the socially devoted, the socially native, they are not skippable. You have to go through them. They are not skippable. You can't just go from first to third, from 0 to third. There's no way to do that, and I've seen no companies that prove me wrong, because social has a certain ramp of understanding. And you really understand social when you're kind of going through that path. So yes, allocate educational time. Learn from each other. The best social media teams in the world are the ones that really educate and move that education around the company. Nestle, for example, has a program where they send people for 8 months into the global team and then send them back into their team to immerse them back. And the companies, the countries, we work with 50 of Nestle, that have that get the people back, they become much more effective in social media. So of course, analyze carefully. Get the right things to do that. Engage, engage, and engage again with your users. Because you're building those communities, you're building your new ambassadors from people, from employees, from actual influencers in the business. That's it. Thank you.
Muchas gracias, Jan. Thank you very much.